This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of Gunnison Copper, Mr. Stephen Twyerould. Stephen, it's great to have you on. I talked with you a bit off air. I think your timing is impeccable, and I'm really, really excited to introduce the Gunnison Copper story to our audience. How are you today?
No, I'm really good, mate. Really good. Down here in Phoenix, Arizona, weather's beautiful. Couldn't be better.
Well, listen, I tell you what else couldn't be better. The timing in the copper space right now, we have structural deficits that I think we're starting to see materialize in the market. The futures copper price is closer to $5 than $4 now. The spot price is hanging out right around the 436 level and looks like it wants to surge much, much higher. I am very much a copper bull. Personally, I'm allocated very, very well. And so when I started digging into the Gunnison copper story, it was brought to my attention by a mutual acquaintance of ours. And I'm looking at it and I couldn't figure out why you have such a tiny market cap relative to where you are in the cycle and the many, many catalysts that you have in 2025. So before we get to all of that, for those that are not familiar with your background, can you give us just a brief overview of your background? Because it's a storied one, right?
Yeah, sure. So, I've been in the mining industry all my life, Australia and the US here. And I've been involved in this project, for like over 10 years now. In fact, myself and one of my colleagues, we put the package together. We did all the seed capital ourselves. We're heavily invested. We're not just a hired help here. We're very, very aligned with our shareholders and stakeholders to make this company successful. But we've got a big asset. We've got a number of assets. In fact, we control the entire Cochise mining district. And it's the first time that it's been under one company's control ever. This mining district goes back to the turn of the century. They've been mining here for over 100 years on and off, but it's never been under one control before. So, we've done that, consolidated that over the last 10 years. We have a big asset called Gunnison Project, about 5 billion pounds of M&I in the ground. And we started to develop that in 2020 using in situ recovery like they do in the uranium business. It's a bit of a high risk project, and a big ask for a junior company to take that on, but we're very dedicated and so are our supporters. That didn't go as well as we liked. We got rightly punished in the market because we didn't meet our production ramp up hurdles. And it's taken us some time to recover from that. But big catalyst last year, we put together an additional land package of about 3,000 acres. And that meant we could now open pit this thing. We couldn't do that before because we didn't have the land we needed. We put that land package together. This deposit looks great as an open pit. So, we've still got that drag of the old in situ on the market cap. Now we're pivoted to the open pit. We've got a PEA in the public domain on that, super competitive amongst our peers. So, all that value is going to come back as we start pushing the catalysts out on developing, the pre-fees and the other work on that open pit over the next 6 months to 18 months.
I want to make sure that I provide the proper context on value versus, that valuation, right? You have a market cap roughly of $55 million Canadian. You touched on that PEA, which is in US dollars, and you have an after-tax net present value on the Gunnison project of $1.3 billion, right? And that's, with an IRR just above 20%, roughly 21%. That's using a pretty conservative long-term copper price of $4.10 a pound. I can't emphasize enough to people that are looking for leverage in the copper space and a company that's actually going to capture the profitable part of this cycle, the leverage that, a higher copper price is going to provide to those metrics. Can you touch on that? Because look, aside from those numbers already being very, very solid, I think both you and I probably agree that copper is likely headed much, much higher. And we haven't even touched on the exploration upside here, right?
Totally. Like I mean, we're really bullish on copper. We wouldn't be in this space if we weren't, and we have been for some time. Everything's pointing towards strong copper demand. You know, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 years, it doesn't matter. Super bullish on the copper price. So, yeah, I mean, at 410 copper, we're above that today, and after-tax NPV, like you said, of $1.3 billion on just what is a very run-of-the-mill standard mine plan, standard operating design for a large open pit. And like here in Arizona, safe jurisdiction, all the workforce you need, all the infrastructure you need, because it's kind of like, the copper mining capital of the US.
I couldn't agree with you more. You touched on something that's, becoming more and more critical every day, and that's jurisdiction, right? And being able, it's great to have, a PEA that shows, over $1 billion in value there, in net present value, but it means nothing if you're not able to safely mine that and advance the project. And so I'm glad that you touched on Arizona as a jurisdiction, because I think it's going to become more and more important as time goes on to operate in jurisdictions where you have the rule of law, you have a government, and you have land that responds to ownership and responds to mineral development, right?
Yeah. And just to reflect back in some of the, sort of the, 4 or 5 years ago, like this project was fully permitted as an operating in situ mine. Like we'd already been through the permitting process. We constructed the wellfield. We constructed, we have the SXEW plant and a lot of the processing facility, all on site. So, we understand that permitting process. We understand your social license to operate. We've been through that successfully and demonstrated that. There's not a lot of junior companies who've actually been through that, brought a mine into production.
Couldn't agree with you more. Listen, I always got to make sure that we talk catalysts, right? And I can't let you go without kind of providing a roadmap for what the rest of the year looks like, what 2025 is going to look like, because Gunnison is not short on catalyst here in 2025. What comes next, sir?
Yeah, so we have this thing, like the next step, ordinarily it's a big pre-feasibility study. Sometimes they're not that sexy. There's just a lot of work. In our pre-feasibility study, we identified 5 or 6 things that have really high value. Like they can, further improve the economics of the project substantially. We're talking about sort of byproducts that can come out of this mine. So what we did was we pulled all that workflow forward over the next 4 to 6 months. We're going to hit all these high value add projects. Right now, they're not in the economics. Any one of them coming good is going to make it even look better. So all that stuff's going to be coming out as we get on the ground over the next 4 to 6 months.
Well, listen, I'm excited about the timing. I'm excited for the company in 2025. I'm really, really excited to be able to help tell the story and get it to our audience. I encourage everybody to take a deep dive into Gunnison Copper. Give it a peek, give it a look. Checks a lot of boxes, right? You have a lot of pounds, you have scale, you have upside, you have the jurisdiction, and you have a management team that is positioned really, really well, and is by default positioning shareholders very, very well, and skin in the game, which I absolutely love. Anything to add to that, sir?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't have time in this short interview, but we talked about Gunnison. That's the headline project. That's where all this value is going to come screaming at us in the next sort of 12 to 18 months. But we also have a smaller asset called Johnson Camp right there. That's going into production, this year. We're working with a group called Newton LLC. They're a Rio Tinto venture company. They're looking to do sulfide leaching. They've chosen our site as the best place to work on that operation. And like we're literally constructing, we're drilling, we're blasting, we're mining, we're going to be leaching soon, we're going to be producing copper soon. So not only are we a junior explorer, junior developer, but we have a small production asset that's going to be coming online this year.
Exciting times. I'm looking forward to taking, a further dive into some of those byproducts, because as you mentioned, when you go through the presentation, if any one of those works out halfway the way it's envisaged, then the value here is phenomenal just on that front alone, let alone all of the copper upside that you get. Stephen, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to having you back on.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for your time.
All right,
Good
cheers.
stuff. Thanks.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.